Hey parents, let me ask you something that might hit close to home. Have you ever caught yourself doing something for your child that they could probably do themselves? Maybe tying their shoes when they're 8, or jumping in to solve a friendship conflict before they even tried to handle it themselves. I'm talking about those moments where your parental instincts kick in so hard that you end up getting in your child's way. And here's the thing, you're not alone in this. In fact, Donald Winnicott, one of the most brilliant child psychologists who ever lived, warned us about this exact pattern decades ago. Today, we're diving deep into what Winnicott called one of the most damaging things we can do as parents. And it's something that comes from a place of love. We're going to talk about why your good intentions might actually be blocking your child's path to independence. And more importantly, how you can break this cycle starting today. Because here's what Winnicott understood. The goal of parenting isn't to create dependent children who need us forever. It's to raise human beings who can eventually thrive without us. And that process? It starts way earlier than you think. Let me tell you about something Winnicott observed that might make you uncomfortable. He noticed that some of the most loving, attentive parents were unknowingly creating what he called false self-children. These are kids who become so adapted to their parents' needs and expectations that they lose touch with their own authentic desires and capabilities. Now, before you start feeling guilty, let me be clear. This isn't about bad parenting. This is about a pattern that happens when we love our children so much that we can't bear to see them struggle, fail, or feel any discomfort. Here's how it typically plays out in your daily life. Picture the morning rush scenario. Your 6-year-old is trying to button their shirt, taking forever, getting frustrated. You're running late for work, so you swoop in and do it for them. They learn that mom or dad will handle the hard stuff. You've just reinforced dependence. Or think about the playground conflict. Your child comes to you crying because another kid took their toy. Instead of asking, "What do you think you could do about that?" you march over and solve it for them. They learn that they can't handle social challenges on their own. Then there's the homework helper situation. Your 4th grader is struggling with a math problem. Instead of sitting with the discomfort and working through it, you basically do it for them to avoid the tears and frustration. They learn that struggle is something to be avoided, not worked through. Winnicott called this impingement. When the parent's anxiety or need to help actually impinges on the child's natural development process. And here's the kicker. It comes from love. You're not trying to harm your child. You're trying to protect them from discomfort, failure, and struggle. But here's what Winnicott understood that many of us miss. Discomfort, failure, and struggle are not bugs in the system of child development. They're features. They're how children learn that they are capable, resilient, and independent beings. When we consistently step in to rescue our children from normal developmental challenges, we're sending them a message. You can't handle this. You need me to function. And over time, they start to believe it. They start to believe that they really can't handle things on their own. Winnicott explained that children need to experience what he called graduated failure from their parents. Not neglect, not abandonment, but appropriate, gradual stepping back that allows the child to discover their own capabilities. When we don't provide this graduated failure, we keep them in a state of dependence that should be temporary. The child's true self, their authentic desires, capabilities, and confidence gets buried under a false self that's always looking to others for direction, validation, and solutions. Now, here's where Winnicott's genius really shines. He didn't believe in perfect parenting. In fact, he thought perfect parenting was harmful. Instead, he championed what he called good enough mothering. And this applies to all parents, not just mothers. The good enough parent is someone who meets their child's needs most of the time, but not all of the time. They're attuned to their child, but they're not so perfectly attuned that the child never has to develop their own coping skills. Let me explain this with a story that might sound familiar. Picture your 8-month-old crying. You fed them, changed them. They're not sick. In the past, you might have picked them up immediately every single time. But the good enough parent recognizes that sometimes the baby needs to learn that they can tolerate a little discomfort and that mom or dad will come, but not instantly. This teaches the baby that they can manage their own emotional states for short periods. This isn't about being mean or neglectful. It's about recognizing that your child needs to develop what Winnicott called ego strength, the ability to tolerate frustration, delay gratification, and cope with challenges. Consider the toddler tantrum scenario. Your 2-year-old is having a meltdown because they can't open a container of crackers. The anxious parent immediately opens it to stop the crying. The good enough parent might say, "I can see you're frustrated. Let's try together." And then you can try by yourself. They hold the emotional space for the child's frustration while still providing support. Or think about the school-age challenge. Your 7-year-old forgot their homework at home. The anxious parent rushes to school to deliver it. The good enough parent might say, "That's frustrating. What do you think you can do about it?" They allow the child to experience the natural consequence while offering emotional support. Here's what's revolutionary about this approach. You're not abandoning your child. You're not being cold or uncaring. You're providing them with something far more valuable than constant rescue. You're giving them the opportunity to discover their own strength and resilience. Winnicott talked about creating a holding environment. Not physical holding, but emotional holding. This means you're present, you're supportive, you're available, but you're not doing everything for your child. You're holding the space for them to struggle, learn, and grow. Think of it like spotting someone at the gym. You're right there, ready to help if they really need it, but you're not lifting the weights for them. Because if you lifted the weights for them, they'd never get stronger. When your child is struggling with a task, resist the urge to immediately jump in. Instead, try saying that looks challenging. Tell me what you've tried so far. When they're upset about a social situation, don't immediately offer solutions. Try "that sounds really hard. What do you think your options are?" When they're facing a natural consequence of their choices, don't rescue them. Instead say, "I can see you're disappointed. What do you think you might do differently next time?" The good enough parent understands that their job isn't to eliminate all struggle from their child's life. It's to provide a secure base from which the child can venture out, try things, fail, succeed, and gradually build confidence in their own abilities. Now, let's get real about what this looks like in your daily life. How do you know if you've fallen into this pattern? How can you tell if your child is becoming overdependent? Winnicott gave us some clear indicators, and I want you to honestly assess your own situation as we go through these. Watch for emotional regulation signs. Your child immediately runs to you for comfort over minor frustrations that they used to handle independently. They have meltdowns when you're not immediately available to solve their problems. They seem unable to self-soothe or calm down without your intervention. They frequently say things like, "I can't do it," before even trying. Look for decision-making signs. They constantly ask you to choose for them, even about things they have preferences about. They seem paralyzed by simple decisions like what to wear or what to play. They look to you for approval before doing things they've done successfully before. They've stopped expressing their own opinions or preferences. Notice problem-solving signs. They immediately give up when faced with any challenge. They don't attempt to solve problems on their own before asking for help. They seem to have lost skills they previously had. They become anxious or upset when expected to do age-appropriate tasks independently. Watch for social signs. They want you to handle all their social conflicts. They're reluctant to interact with peers without your presence. They seem unable to advocate for themselves in appropriate situations. They rely on you to communicate their needs to others. Now, here's what's important to understand. If you're seeing these signs, it doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It means you're a loving parent who may have gotten a little too good at anticipating and meeting your child's needs. These signs look different at different ages. A 3-year-old needing help with emotional regulation is normal. A 7-year-old who can't tolerate any frustration without immediate parental intervention might be showing signs of overdependence. A 5-year-old who needs help with complex decisions is appropriate. A 10-year-old who can't choose their own clothes or snacks might be overdependent. Often, children who become overdependent also develop anxiety. Why? Because they've learned that the world is too challenging for them to handle alone. When you consistently rescue your child from normal challenges, you're inadvertently teaching them that those challenges are indeed too big for them. Winnicott observed that children who don't get the opportunity to develop their own coping skills often become anxious children, and later, anxious adults. They've never learned to trust their own ability to handle life's inevitable difficulties. Here's a question for self-reflection. Do you find yourself feeling anxious when your child is struggling? Do you feel like you need to jump in and fix things immediately? This might be your own anxiety interfering with your child's development. Sometimes we rescue our children not because they need rescuing, but because we can't tolerate watching them struggle. Winnicott would say that part of being a good enough parent is learning to tolerate your child's temporary discomfort in service of their long-term development. All right, so if you're recognizing yourself and your child in what we've talked about, don't panic. The beautiful thing about Winnicott's approach is that it's never too late to start fostering independence. But it requires intentional changes in how you respond to your child. Instead of immediately jumping in to help, create a graduated response system. First, acknowledge the struggle by saying, "I can see you're having a hard time with that." Then, express confidence by saying, "I believe you can figure this out." Offer minimal support by asking, "Would it help if I stayed here while you try?" Only provide direct help if they truly need it after making a genuine effort. Here's an example. Your 6-year-old is struggling to zip their jacket. Instead of immediately doing it for them, you might say, "Zippers can be tricky. Let me see you try it." Start by holding the bottom part steady. Guide them through the process rather than doing it for them. When your child is upset or frustrated, resist the urge to immediately solve the problem. Instead, hold the emotional space for them. Say, "You're really frustrated right now. It's hard when things don't work the way we want them to. I'm here with you while you figure this out." This teaches them that difficult emotions are tolerable and temporary, and that they have the capacity to work through challenges. Instead of providing immediate answers or solutions, flip it back to them. Instead of "Here, let me do that. Try what do you think might work." Instead of "You should do this, try what are your options here." Instead of "Don't worry, I'll handle it, try what's your plan." Allow your child to experience the natural consequences of their choices and actions while providing emotional support. If they forget their lunch, they experience hunger while knowing you still love them. If they don't put their toys away, they might get lost or broken. If they don't study for a test, they might get a poor grade. Your job is to be emotionally available for the disappointment or frustration that follows, not to rescue them from these learning experiences. Systematically identify tasks your child could be doing independently and gradually transfer ownership. For ages 3 to 4, this might be putting away toys and simple self-care tasks. For ages 5 to 6, getting dressed and basic meal preparation help. For ages 7 to 8, managing their own belongings, and simple problem solving. 4. Age 9 and up, increasing responsibility for their own academic and social challenges. Here's what Winnicott would want you to know. When you start pulling back and encouraging independence, your child will likely resist. They might cry more, argue more, or seem more upset. This is normal. They've gotten used to you handling things for them. Stay calm, stay consistent, and remember that this temporary discomfort is necessary for their long-term development. You're not being mean. You're being a good enough parent who's helping them develop crucial life skills. Part of breaking this cycle involves managing your own anxiety and need to rescue. When you see your child struggling, take a deep breath and remind yourself, this struggle is helping them grow. I can tolerate this discomfort because it's good for them. So here's what Winnicott wants you to remember. Your child is naturally wired for independence. They want to feel capable and confident. When you consistently step in to rescue them from normal developmental challenges, you're actually working against their natural drive toward autonomy. The goal isn't to abandon your child or stop being supportive. The goal is to be supportive in a way that builds their confidence in their own abilities rather than their dependence on you. Starting today, I want you to try this. When your child faces a challenge, pause before jumping in. Ask yourself, is this something they could handle with a little support rather than me doing it for them? If the answer is yes, step back and be their emotional support while they work through it. Remember, you're not just raising a child, you're raising a future adult. And that future adult needs to know that they can handle life's challenges, tolerate frustration, and solve problems on their own. The beautiful thing about Winnicott's approach is that it actually creates a stronger parent-child relationship. When your child knows they can count on you for emotional support while they face their own challenges, they develop both independence and secure attachment. Your child doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to be good enough. And part of being good enough is knowing when to step back and let them discover just how capable they really are. Trust the process, trust your child, and trust that a little struggle today leads to a lot of strength tomorrow. That's the Winnicott way. And it's the path to raising truly independent, confident children.